Hello, welcome to Spreadsheets for Accounting, the Level 3 Osborne Books tutorial book. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this as the introduction and Chapter 1. I'm going to take you through this book in a series of videos, and I'm going to follow the book in order. And the reason why is because that will allow you to pick up at what point you want to look at these videos really and see what's going on in the book. So I'm going to very much go through it page by page in order in this series of videos. Some of you will already have a lot of Excel knowledge, and so you can work out at what point your knowledge has run out and you want to sort of go through the videos and find out. Some of you will want to start from the absolute basics, and so we start from now and keep going. The reason why I'm doing a series of videos with this book is because it's a good book. It covers everything that we need to go through. So for me, it's very useful in terms of this is what the syllabus is. If I just explain, sorry, I got a bit of a croaky voice. I was talking through a lot of videos yesterday. If I just explain what's going on in this book, then I know that we've covered everything that you need for the exam. The downside of the book is it's a book. It's not an Excel spreadsheet, and so sometimes you can only really know what it means if you actually knew what it meant in the first place. So by following my videos with me, you're going to follow the pages, do the same thing with the mouse that I do. You can stop the videos and practice it. Then you'll definitely get it, and that's the point of this. So also as well, what we're going to see is that the book is a very large subject really at level 3, and a level 3 for students doing spreadsheets, and they often struggle with the sheer volume of this book. On the one hand, because there is so much to it, although it's only got, it calls it 8 chapters, within a number of the later chapters there is a lot in each individual chapter. So it's much bigger than the other books as a wider subject. And also, if you were getting frustrated and couldn't achieve something and stopped, it would actually be bigger still. So I think that we're going to probably take about 30 hours to do all of these books, to do this book, rather than, let's say, in bookkeeping controls that took 7. So let's go through it. I've already had a little bit of a play. I'm going to delete that out. So I've opened up a spreadsheet. If you can open up a spreadsheet with me as well, have your spreadsheet open with this video and have your book open as well, and we will go through it from start to finish. So it says some preliminaries, numbers. So numbers. So let's just type in some numbers here. There's some numbers. That's what they would be. Oh, I've actually converted those to a date. Sorry, let me put some numbers in here. Delete that out. So that's a number there. And in Excel, a number is interpreted as in various ways, but we'll just put that as numbers for the moment. Let's put some dates in. So I want you to now put in a date. So it's saying 30th, 2016. Oh, sorry, let me just change that to the 31st. So that's a date. Now, actually, that's also a number within Excel. We'll see that later on. It's a number as well, but it's converted into a date. So you notice previously where I put in a number and it turned into a date, that's because that number that I turned into corresponded to that date. So there's a date, that's what that's called, text string. So let's put just some letters in there. That's called text. So it's not a number. It's not something called a function as well. It's just text. Right, mouse click then. So let's go through what it's called. So a left in your mouse. And really, within Excel, have a mouse. Don't try and use the mouse on a laptop to try and do it. It just won't work really very well. Have a proper mouse. So left click is the left button on the mouse. One single click will be one click. A double click will be a double click of the left mouse. Right click. So if you right click the mouse, you'll see that what tends to come up here is then a menu with a series of options. So I'll be right clicking. And let's say if I right click there, I've got those options. If I right click here, I've got those options. If I right click here, I've got some different options. So I've got some different options depending on where I'm clicking the page. So we'll sort of see, we'll see that in action as we're going through. Undo. So up here, in this part, you're going to have these arrows. This is an undo arrow, going backwards. So let's undo something. Click that once. Click, and we'll see that last action disappeared. If this little arrow next to it, if I click that, open, I can undo a whole series of things. So there, that was all the right actions. So that's undo. So that will undo previous things. And so if we make a mistake, we can just undo it rather than having to delete things out or what have you. Redo. See, when I click the undo, this thing then lit up. So I'll just put that back to that. See how it's now there's nothing to redo. Let's undo something. Now it's lit up. We can redo it. So we can, no, I didn't really want to undo. I didn't really want to undo that second one. I want to redo that back in. Put that back in. So that's redo. So on the keyboard then, right, so you've got an enter button, which you should know, you know about, an escape button, a tab button, and a control button. Those should be pretty fine. Though within Excel they have various different things. So let's say that I wanted to left click here. If I put your finger on the mouse key and put your finger on the shift key. So I've left clicked here. Put your finger on the shift key and left click down here. You'll see how it highlighted the whole thing. There's another way of doing that, which is click in there, put your finger down on the mouse and the left key, keep it on it, and just drag your way down. That's one way of doing it, but the shift key is a faster way of doing it. Right, so now we've got menus here. So we're now over the page. Hopefully that's page 3 explained. Enter menus. So we've got some menus up here, and these are the menus up here. So this is the menus. In there, if we click on each of these tabs, they have various options. So what you can see here is that Excel is laid out into a series of predefined menus. What we're going to do, and as a consequence, by clicking through these various menus, you can see the amount that we've got to get through, as well as what we're going to do. So there's a lot of layout in here. So quite often you'll say, in this menu, so for formulas menu, we're going to go into the function wizard, let's say over here, and do something. Okay. Or in this menu here, in let's say review, we're going to go into track changes, or we're going to go into protect sheet, or we're going to do something. So we'll have typically it's sort of where things are. You need to know where they are in these menus. Right, help button. So now you have to find where the help button is on Excel. So I think in here it is in Excel 2010. It is up here. Oh, sorry, Windows 10, Excel, whatever that one is, it's there. So you would go into File, and you find it on previous iterations of Excel. Probably be sitting up here somewhere. So in your version of Excel, you need to find out where is this little question mark. This is a really useful thing because if you click on it, I'm going to click on it here. It will now connect. So Excel 2016 help is sitting in the file menu. Excel, I think it's 2012, beforehand help sits in just in the top ribbon. If you click on it, you can then put in some various things, and you can find it. So I don't know. Let's put in a function, and it'll start to give us somewhere where we can go and discuss VLOOKUPs. Now what that will do is it will give a more detailed explanation of things in the book. Hopefully with these, because you've got these videos, you won't necessarily need the help button. But if you're still struggling with something, or actually if you're in the exam, you could flick up the help button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to really try and focus in these videos on making your answers as fast as possible, to maybe give you the opportunity to use the help button at that point. So you've gone through the middle of page 4. So we're now into a definition. We're now into spreadsheet structure. Okay, so what is a spreadsheet then? Okay, so this let's just actually define this clearly, and let's sort of say what it is. So this whole thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a few other. I'll explain how to do that later on. Right, all of these sheets together is what's known as a workbook. So that's a workbook, all of them combined together, whatever this file is here. So this workbook. An individual sheet within the workbook is a worksheet. Said as a spreadsheet here, but it's a worksheet. Within this worksheet, we have a series here of a table of sort of rows and columns. So columns here, and the columns are given letter numbers, so letters, and we have rows, and the rows are given numbers here, and that allows a particular cell, what is called in here. So let's go through the bottom. So rows are given numbers, columns are given letters. Okay, a cell then is a combination of row number and cell and column number. It's actually column number first, column letter first, and row number second. And what you can see here is in this little box here, that's telling you the name of the cell. So each cell is named. Watch how this changes as I click through, and you click through with me as well. And you see that that is the name of that cell. So that particular cell there, that part of this worksheet, is given that name. In this instance, column Q, row 7. That's important because when we later on are building equations and formulas, we need to be referring to these particular cells. So we need to know how they are. So column letter first, and there's a row number second. If we go past them, as they sort of say, we're on to page 5 here, we've gone up to Z, we've run out of letters, well then it just starts AAAB, so it just runs like that, and so keep going to the right with your right arrow key, and you'll see how they change there. I'm going to get back quickly to start, so if you find the home key, and you press that for me, it pulls you back to the start, and that's a faster way. So let's say we've decided to go down miles down here somewhere, and we want to get back up to the top quickly. We just press the home key and the up. Let's go up. The home key will pull us to the left. If you want to get up quickly when we've gone down, see these little bars on the right hand side? We could slide up using that. There. Okay. The maximum number of rows and columns in the spreadsheet is determined by the software package you're using. Yes, it is. It's now very big. In reality, if you were using that amount of the rows and columns, your computer would probably stop anyway and not be able to process it. So sometimes if it's just being used to just hold huge amounts of data, let's say the entire exam results of everybody in the country, might go over a couple of workbooks, but typically doesn't anymore. Okay, so we've had where row and columns. We're on page 5, the middle of it. So a cell, okay, which has a cell reference, and the cell reference is there. And then we've got on the edge, what I just sort of highlighted was these scroll bars here. Now the thing is until we've done something and we've got something to scroll out of, it doesn't really move us very far. But let's just now move ourselves down a bit. Find a way to move down. You can either use the page downs here, or the arrows, or you could use a little wheel probably in the middle of your mouse, and you can wheel it down. Now what you can see there is as I've expanded out the size of the workbook, also the worksheet, you see this scroll bar has now suddenly got some things within it to scroll. So if you now move your mouse with me, you can scroll a bit with this. It's a faster way of moving around the spreadsheet. Okay, so that's that. Now, the little lines marking it, these little grey lines, are called grid lines. So you can see how they're not very defined at the moment. They're left as grid lines. There's an option within Excel to leave the grid lines in at some point, which means it gives a really sort of soft border in it. Some people don't like it. I don't actually, to be fair. We'll have later on, we can make these harder, blacker lines, and we have this little thing called borders and shading. So I'm going to put in there. You see how I've turned those grid lines into dark lines. Those will definitely be printed. But these little markings of the outline of the cell, and the sort of the way of making it an outline is called the grid lines. So that's a grid line between them. These are scroll bars here that allow us to move around the worksheet. Okay, so we're into page 5. Alright, so now we have the proper definition. So the workbook is the file, is the computer file, and it includes all of the worksheets. The worksheet is an individual spreadsheet. Well, it's a so the worksheet here. And so we are then having quite often in the bottom of page 5, you're going to be asked in your questions to save your Excel workbooks as files with particular names in a folder. So you'll be having file. So let's just do a save of this file, and then you have a save as, and then we would put it into a particular folder, and we're going to put a specific name in there. So you'll be asked to do that. So as type as well, you're not going to have to do different types in this level. So don't worry about the type bit, but the file name you'll have to be able to sort of save it as specific names in particular places. Okay, so we're going to go into page 6. Okay, so alright, so we are now into the file section. So we're going to the file section. We're into open or save as. So there's the open one. Open will be where we're going to find somewhere. Save as is where we're going to save it. You know, we've already created it and saved it. Share would be if we wanted to move it to, let's say, an email. So we would hit that there, and we could share it, and we could insert it into an email. Okay. If we go into open, and we're going to go into browse. So there's a little thing missing here. So if we went into open, we're trying to find a file in there. I think somewhere I put it within that C drive, and I wanted to find it. There's the search function up there, and we could put in some names for whatever it is that I'm trying to find. Why am I searching for November? It will now go away and start searching for a spreadsheet on November. No, let's have a look whether I can have a search for lookup. Oh, and it starts to pull up things that have got that spreadsheet either in the folder name or the file name. If we rename a file, so let's just come out of here. Let's go into it. We've got one here, so I've got one on pivot tables. Let's go and open it up. To actually rename, you don't do it via open. You'd have to probably go over into via save as, and let's do a search again for pivot. In there. Might appear, might not. So let's just go and open up something in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. Save as into a document in here. And let's go. Chapter 1. Save it. Let's go open. Here. Now if I right click into here, so remember when I right click, I've got this option for rename, and so that's what the rename section is all about. And here I could rename it. I could call it something different. I could only rename it actually if I wasn't in it. So I'll try and rename this, and I'll rename this as chapter 2, and you'll see that it won't allow me to do it because I'm in it. And see how it just clicks and it says can't do that because it's open. If I was if I closed it and I was in it, I could rename. And it was in a different spreadsheet, I could rename it. Okay, so sharing we've done. So we're into the file one here, share down here, and that allows us to email it. I don't think you're going to be required. I've not seen a question that's required you to do that. Okay, so we're now into worksheets then. Bottom of page 6. Each worksheet has a name. So I see here, each one has got a name. So let's change the name in here. 2017, let's say. Okay, so the name of the worksheet is displayed in the tab at the bottom. Right. When we create a new workbook, it will create at least one sheet in there. Yeah, it will. Remember we had one in there at the start. There. We can add more, and we add more in by using this new sheet. So click on that, and you'll see that more worksheets come in. Okay. So we've done that. So that's on page 7. We add in some more worksheets in here. We can delete them. It says delete them from the home menu by selecting the worksheet with the right mouse. Yep, so we select the worksheet with the right mouse, let's say here. Okay, so remember that right click. So that right click there. So I go into that sheet here. So watch where my mouse is there. I right click in here. Up comes this menu here. Now I can insert more worksheets or charts or whatever. So it's another way of doing the plus. It's a bit of a waste of time. Or I can delete, and so that's the delete option. I delete that sheet there. So that was delete. I can change the order by if I left, put your finger on your mouse on the sheet. Put your finger on the left trigger and keep on it. Hold on it. Keep it down. See how that little arrow's come up there? See how it's not moved there? Like that. Now move it around and drop it, and you see how it's moved. There, I've left clicked on that. I've got my finger down, and I've moved it like that. So that's how to move a worksheet around. It can be important if you've got a lot of worksheets and you want to bring things to the front. So to modify the contents of a cell, click on the required cell. So the required cell which has a reference. So let's say click on H7. H7 here. We can either enter the new thing directly. So let's just type in something there. That would be entering directly. Or we can click into the formula bar. The formula's here. Okay, and we can then start to use what we'll use later on, as things like the function wizards to get this thing to start doing things. Okay, so that's what we are. We can make changes to it. So I want to make change. I want that to actually be that. And to get that to, so let's just. I've got that open, and you can see how it's still flashing there. If I, until I've done some. So I'm in it, and it's still flashing. Now, if I press enter, that's it. I've stopped. It's finished. Let's do that again. If I actually just left click away from it, so I left click on some other cell, it's the same as the enter sign there as well. So that's how it would happen. But as soon as I press enter, or as soon as I left click away, it's now stopped. There'll be a different thing with the left click away when we're actually into the formulas. Enter will always stop what we're doing and move on. To remove data, we can select the cell to be changed. So let's see here, and we press the delete key, and that wipes out everything that's in it. We can also as well, I'm going to undo that. We can also as well use clear or select clear contents from the drop down menu. So we right click in the cell. So I'm in the cell here, and I right click, and then I've got clear contents here. Why is that? I mean, it's the same thing. What I will say with Excel is Excel has been built up over a long period of time. There's a lot of functions and different ways to do the same thing. So it's been built up as long as I was an accountant, and it started to really sort of come in then. So it's probably about 25 years old at least. And so all of these functions and different methods have been put in over time. So there's you'll see that there can be sort of up to 10 ways of doing exactly the same thing. Why have delete and clear contents? Well, yeah, why? If at the same time you wish to select more than one cell, select the first cell by left clicking in it. Keep the left mouse button pressed. So you've got your left mouse button pressed down, and you're going to keep your finger on it. And now drag like that. Okay. So that is how you select a series of cells, and we can do the same thing to it all, like a delete or something like that. So that's what we've got in here then is February. So what did I just do there? Excel has a certain level of intelligence within it. So if I put the full February in there, and then, so I'll do this underneath. So I'll write in February with me here. Now you see how this thing has a box around it now, and this little green box here. I'm going to insert a shape. I'm pointing at it. That little green box there that I'm pointing at with this arrow here. Okay, that one there. Get your mouse on that one and see how that little cross has appeared. Put your left trigger down, put the left mouse down, and just drag it, keeping it down, and you see how it converted that February into March, April, May, June. Just does it, has a bit of intelligence about it. And the reason for the spreadsheets is often it can allow a lot of quick actions rather than typing it in like that. So put your left mouse down on that one, drag to the right, highlighting all of the cells. That's how you highlight all of those cells there. So if the cells that you wish to select are not consecutive to each other, you use the control key. So let's say I actually wanted to highlight February. Now put your finger on the control key. Keep your finger on the control key. So you have to keep the finger down on the control key. You can't lift it up and press April and put the control key down and lift it up and press June, because as you see it doesn't work. You press the February one, put your finger on the control key, April, June. We've now done all three. And now if I want to do something with it, like delete, they've all gone. Okay, just undo that. So it allows us to select cells in not in an order. So if we had this, if the shift key with the select, so we've left mouse button down, and we've kept the finger on the left mouse button and we dragged across, you can see how it's kept the March and the May one in. We didn't want to, in this instance, hold the March and the May one and do anything to that. We want that one, and we just want the April one and the June one. We've kept our finger on the control button whilst we clicked on them. I'll show you what it actually is important for. Let's put some figures in here, and we're going to put, don't worry about this, this is just going to be an example here, equals. Now I actually just want to add up that number, that number, that number. I could do it like that with little commas in between. If I just wanted to highlight those ones or doing something, I'm using my control key. If I wanted to change those and move them around, or change some formatting with them or something like that. Okay, so copying cells, and so select the cell that you wish to copy. Here, from the home menu, select copy. Okay, so there's a copy there. And you'll see when we press that, Excel is now doing something. It's told you that thing there. So I've left clicked. I'm going to escape out of that. If I switch it off, that's where the escape key comes in. So I've left clicked in the February. I've gone to the home menu and I've used copy. No, I'm going to go to another cell that I want to do. So let's say here, I9, and here, and in the home menu, I'm now going to press paste. I'm going to hit the main board. I'm not going to press this other one here. Okay, that's one way of doing it. A shortcut in here, which it sort of says, is Control C. So put your finger on the control. Let's escape out of that, so we've not got the little things going around. Click away from it. Let's click into it. Press the Control and the C down, and so keep your finger on the actual control button, and now press the C button, and lift your fingers off. So to do that again, I'm on this February one here. I put my finger on the control button. I keep it on the control button, so it's pressed down, and I press the C button. So I've got Control and C pressed at the same time. That's now done that's what's known as a shortcut. And now let's go away here. I want to copy it here, and so I put my finger on the control button, and I keep it on the control button, and I press V. So that's Control V together, and that's pasted it. That's a shortcut for paste. Right, okay. So it's also possible to move things from one cell to a new reference. So I've got this cell in I9. I want it actually to be in M2. So what I do is I've got this cell here. I could do the copy and paste and then delete out the first cell. That would be one method. And here, alternatively, I could click on the first cell, and then I could. Alright, so I'm going to copy into more than one cell. Sorry. Rather than move, if I moved, what I would do is, let's say I've got this green border around here. To move this, I'm going to click on the green border, or I'm going to click on the cell, sorry, on the green border here. So you can see how I'm here, and the little 4 hours have appeared up there, and I drag this over here. That would be moving it around. Like let's say here I want to copy information into more than one cell at a time. Here, so let's see what I'm going to do here is I've got the Control C up here. I've created that. And I'm going to copy them into here. So what I do is I highlight all of these cells here. So I've left clicked on the first cell. I've kept my finger on the left mouse button. I've highlighted this and here. I'm going to keep going along. I'm going to highlight this. I want an absolute massive block of February's there. And now I'm going to Control V here. And you'll see how it's now copied it into every single cell in there. So that's how you can copy into more than one. I want to copy it into a whole series that aren't all together. I've kept my finger on the Control button. And I've highlighted those. And then I Control V into there. And you can see how it's put it into a whole series of things that aren't next to one another. So that's where using the Shift key. Well, you can actually, what I've done is here, I've dragged rather than shifted. So what I've done is I put my finger on the left mouse and dragged. There though. I can put it on here. I can put my finger on the Shift key and go to the other cell that I want to be here, like that, and I can Control V there. So that's what that use of that Shift key is talking about here. So to do that again, I clicked once, I put my finger on the Shift key, I click twice, and I press that. That can be useful. I mean, if we're in a short amount of data, and in reality, in your exam, you're never really going to be working that much outside of a single spreadsheet. So you're going to tend to sort of put your finger on the first cell and drag it around with the left mouse, keeping it down to do that. But the Shift option in the bottom of page 11 is click on the first cell, put your finger on the Shift button, click in the second cell where you want to have, and then press V. The other one with the Control one is click on these non-consecutive cells here, and then press Control V, and we've copied it into there. Deleting rows and columns. So at the bottom of 11, so we've got, it describes a column header. So we're over into page 12 now. So here's a column header, and here's a row header. Now why is it important? Well, you see how my mouse is going into this column header here, and this column header is starting to change. The shading appears, and into this row header, and this shading appears here. That's telling me that I'm in the column header if I click. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the column header. I'm going to right click. So it's saying actually it puts it in C. Right, and I right click here, and I get some options come up. So this is the menu that comes up. So if I right click here, the menu comes up, and I can insert a column. And the column input came in here. I'll let some do that. Or right click, and I could delete a column. So that's now in the exam questions, you're going to have a lot of insert columns. So what I've done is, if I've right clicked in here, so as shading comes up, I right click, see how the column highlights itself? I could start to format within here. I could delete them, I could clear some columns in there, I can insert. I've got these other options available, which we'll see. I can hide and unhide in there. But for this one, I've got insert in a column there. Same thing in here. I'm in here. I'm not clicking anywhere at the moment. The shading has appeared, telling me that if I clicked, we would do something here. And I right click in here. Up comes the options. There's insert a row. Okay, let's do it again. Right click, insert a row. Okay. I think that's taken us through page 13. Okay, deleting a column. So let's go into here. So you can see now I've come in. Let's just get away from there. I've shaded that. I'm in there. It's shading. I right click. I delete the column. I'm in here. It's turned that color. I delete the column. You know if you're not in it. So let's say I'm here and I right click and I press delete. I'm not doing anything. What I'm doing is I'm deleting the cell itself if I'm in here, and it brings up that and is not there. Unless that thing has turned the little different shade of color here, I'm not in that cell. I'm not in that column header. Unless this thing turns different color, I'm in the cells. I'm in the cells within it. I'm not within the headers. Okay, changing the width of a column. We're on page 15. Right, so you see how I've highlighted and I'm in the middle here, and this has got an arrow that's appeared down. Oh, got a little, I'll line this up to it. See how this little arrow here has appeared down? Oops, there, that's the arrow there. I'm just joining up to the other arrow. Okay, that's telling me that right click here and I'm in the column header options. If I go here, so I'm now on the edge, you see how the shading switched off? So right click here, it'll go back to the column headings and tell you what we're in there, but that's not really what we're here for. What we're here at this point for, so let's move this across here. These little arrows there, that's telling us we can change the width of our column. So put your left, get to that point, put your left trigger down, your left mouse, there, so now it's down, and keep it down, and now move this around. You see how we're changing the width of the column. Okay, and then let go, and that's now the column width now has changed. So let's say this was a really narrow column in here. See how the February isn't there, and we want the February in, so we're going to go into this edge here. These arrows with this little line has appeared either way, and that's sort of telling us you can move this column width around. We'll change it around, and we can see February again. So that's how to make a column wider or narrower if you wanted to. That's how to change the width of a column on page 15. To change the height of a row, let's go into here, move that around there, put that on the edge. Okay, so here's, again, we're on the edge between the two rows now. That one's the shaded one, so that would be right clicking here with the arrow is going to tell us we can do something with this column. We can insert rows or delete them or whatever. This one here, we're changing the width, or the height, sorry. Here now, stretching that out. That's now made it there. Okay. Right, so that's changing the height of a row. Turning off grid lines. I'm not sure why you wouldn't want to see the grid lines, to be honest with you, but you can. It's just File, and then we're into the Options menus, which are down here. They're very detailed options. I'm not sure why anybody would want to switch the grid lines off. They don't print unless you set them to print within the thing. But we'll go down anyway. We're into the Options menus, and in here we select our advanced ones again, so you can see how this is an option that is sitting well outside of the requirements. So we've got advanced, we've got our advanced options sitting down here, and within here somewhere is going to be switch off them, and we're talking about going down and finding this within the display options. So we have to go down and find our display options in here. The one that's more useful within display options would be show zeros. Are we going to actually show zeros or not? That one's typically the one that's used more, but we wouldn't, we can switch off the grid lines within here. You can see how infrequently it's used because I can't even know where it is. Display options for this worksheet. Show the columns and the row headers in the worksheet. That would be foolish to switch that off. Show formulas instead of cells instead of the calculated results. There's a shortcut for that which we're going to go through at some point, but that can be important. We'll need that in the exam because often the examiner will want to see your formulas rather than the actual results. So we can do it this way, or there's a shortcut for that. Show sheet left to right. Well, that's how it is. Sorry, right to left, which would turn it right the other opposite way around. That would make no sense at all to use. Show page breaks is useful for printing, but there's a shorter cut for that one, which is in views, which we'll get to. Well, we might get to, we might not have to use it. So here's where the one that I'm saying is more useful. Show a zero in cells that have a zero value. So let's say that we've done a huge amount of calculations in a spreadsheet. It's got a lot of things that calculate to zero. We don't really want to have all of our data within a field of zeros, so we switch that off. That one is used in here. And show grid lines. not liking the fact that, and you see how they've disappeared. It doesn't help at all, and there's not even an undo function for that. Now we've now got to go back into here, into our options, into our advanced options, slide down to our display options, and get those back. We could change the grid line color. That might be quite cool. But we'd never switch off show grid lines here, mainly because they're not actually appearing on the page for when we're printing this out. When we print this out, these grid lines will not appear unless we actually set the print options to show the grid lines. Right, that's got us to page 17. Let's go into a different worksheet now. So on your worksheets that you've added in, let's go to a clean one and let's start to have some formulas in here. So it says using basic formulas. Right, so let's have, so it says a basic formula. We put an equal sign in there. So to create a formula, what we're going to do is we're going to tell Excel we're going to do something, and we have this equal sign. And equals basically is saying we're going to do something, do some calculations for us, do some lookups, whatever it is there. We then have this option here,